Come back!
In an all-new, larger-than-life feature film. Now, the Dark Knight confronts his newest and most menacing villain.
Your angel of death awaits.
The Phantasm.
I want you.
Can't be too careful with all those weirdos around.
I really like that movie, man.
It was a good time. This was the first time I had seen it, and what a treat. Like you said yourself, you said you're in for a treat, and I really was. So much fun. The battle that the Batman and the Joker have at the end.
Yeah.
So epic.
Yeah.
So epic.
Well, I love it because it has all the quality of animation that you expected from Batman the animated series, and it did debut during the middle of Batman Animated's second season, 25 years ago this upcoming December. So Batman Animated started in 1992 on Fox Kids, and then it eventually moved over to the Kids WB in 1996 when Superman Animated started. Same continuity, same production crew, same writers, directors, voice actors. They just did a slight redesign and updated it a few years so that Tim Drake was the new Robin. Dick Grayson had become Nightwing and gone off to college and then come back as Nightwing. But this aired essentially within its second year. And I like that it's got all all the style that you would expect from the animated series, but it's got a little bit deeper of an emotional core.
Yeah. My favorite was the build between
Andrea
Beaumont.
Yeah.
And having her character be built and intertwined within this large story that all Batman fans know. I think my favorite part about it is you don't get it's a common 90s trope where you get to see her walk in,
yeah,
and then you see later on how she has this decision. She decides to, spoiler alert, she decides to end it, and they're going to get married. She said yes, they have a proposal, so they're going to get married.
Yeah.
And this is most interesting part about it is this, that she's part of his origin story. So anyway, that was really quite...
as far as the animated series is concerned, because, I mean, it's a one-off thing that never existed in the comic books. Phantasm is an original character. But for the animated series, it's part backstory to Bruce because it takes place while he's still becoming Batman, but it hasn't become Batman yet. And it also gets to show you a little bit... Because, they flirt in the animated series with his possible love interest with Selena Kyle, and then in Batman Beyond, you hear from Barbara Gordon, who's now police commissioner, that once her as Batgirl got to a certain age, she started dating Bruce Wayne. But this is his first love, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's kind of interesting that they never go back to this in the animated series or any of the other animated films within this continuity. But it doesn't matter because it's still it's a partial origin story for Bruce that she's integral in, and it's also kind of a Joker origin story for the animated series. I mean, you don't see how he becomes the Joker, but you see that he was around as a criminal, as a mafiosa before he became the Joker. So that's pretty cool that they just kind of added that extra layer, Yeah. And then that whole opening sequence with the CG as it's backing out or going through Gotham.
Do you happen to know if that was done after the fact? Was that something that was done later?
That was probably one of the last things they did when putting together the film. And it's taken 25 years for this to come back to the screen. It's a shame that at least in the Century theaters, it's one night only. Here, I have no idea if that's nationwide or if there are other theaters that are showing. I personally think if you do get a chance to see it on the big screen, it's worth it.
I particularly remember one of my favorite parts of this, of course, is the epic Joker battle that's actually that ensues. It's really great, really clever stuff that Joker pulls on, and and that's essentially, at least in my experience, what we see. We always see the Joker isn't necessarily as strong as Batman. He's just able to surprise him in ways that he's able to get him. My favorite part of that scene was the giant monster movie moment because they're on this scale model of a small city, and so it looks like the Batman and Joker are two giant monsters in this city.
Joker.
In the Gotham
really
World's
funny.
Fair or the Goham World's Fair, because it's part of the signs out.
That's right. That's right. The Goham World's Far. The Goham. Yeah, that does. That does. I love how they use the location once again.
Yeah.
The use of locations to tell stories. We see that previously in the origin story. You see it vibrant and alive, and we see it later on where the Joker and Batman are fighting in, and it's this abandoned warehouse type of thing.
And
So
let me just be perfectly brutally honest here. The Joker does steal every scene he's in. And of course, most of your regulars from the animated series, Kevin Conroy and Ephraim Zimbalist Jr., the late Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. as Alfred, and oddly enough, Dana Delaney as Andrea Beaumont / the Phantasm. As interesting, in about 3 years' time from that movie,
Spoiler.
she would go on to voice Lois Lane on the Superman animated series. I highly recommend it. It's not a fantastic movie. There are limitations in the animation. Warner Brothers did not give them the biggest budget that they have for an animated movie.
but it's an extraordinarily well told story.
It
Just
is.
the way everything builds. I know that this is probably hard for you to remember. I don't know if you remember this, but this is the first time I saw it, so I was very surprised that it. Spoiler alert! Spoiler. That it ends up being Beaumont. I mean, that's just so it was surprising to me for when she pulls off, and it's like. I was like, "Holy cow!"
There was some good
And
misdirection in
it was great. I thought that was wonderfully, and I'm sure you
Maybe.
had. But for me personally, I get to be surprised every now and then, and that was a treat. That was an absolute.
No,
treat to be
I mean the
surprised.
first time I saw it, I was surprised too.
Were you?
Because they did a nice misdirection in there,
Yeah.
where she made it seem like it was her father.
Yeah,
Who had gone rogue,
Well,
you
I mean, Bruce thinks it's her father, right? I mean,
Yeah, look, if the world's greatest detective is fooled, I bet we all were.
the world's greatest cartoon detective.
That I bet we all were. So, but I mean, I would like to know if any of you guys, Batman fans out there, what you think of Mask of the Phantasm and how it rates to the Batman animated series. Because for me, even though again there are some limitations in the animation, there are still some of the finest moments of Batman animated ever done in this film. Like the scene where Bruce is fighting the muggers and he jumps in midair and knees the guy on the motorcycle.
That was one of my favorite parts. Punches him, just gives him a straight-on punch,
Yeah,
right?
punch right in the face. While
Yeah,
he's,
that's
or
great.
the scene where Batman's watching, he's kind of tailing Andrea, and it's just that scene in the rain where he just close up and he just puts the binoculars up, and just the detail and the rain coming off. So good. And just the iconic scene at the end where Batman's on the roof, or on the gargoyle on the rooftop, and the camera pans up, kind of reminiscent of Tim Burton, the end of Tim Burton's Batman, and you see the bat symbol, and just iconic moments. Like every time the Joker gets into somebody's face while he's laughing, and it's just so intimidating.
That reminds me of there was a really crazy moment where he snaps, he kind of goes ballistic, and the background behind him
Red.
turns red.
Yeah.
That was so awesome.
That was when Sal was asking him for help, and then he just grabs him, and Joker just instantly just red. The look on his face goes from that happy Joker look to the deranged Joker look. And the moment he grabs him, the red disappears, and it just goes right into a comedic moment,
But it was great too, because it makes you realize that is a comic book moment, something that you couldn't really do. Maybe you could do it in live action, but it worked better. In my opinion, it seemed to work better in an animated two-dimensional context. I mean, this was really, really cool to see, and I imagined right then and there like how that would have been portrayed or illustrated in a comic.
Keep in mind, this was 25 years ago. The animated series was started 26 years ago, so definitely by today's animation standards, it's definitely. A lot of the DC straight-to-DVD, Blu-ray 4K movies obviously have a little bit better animation, and they don't necessarily have the budget that was thrown at this film. But, nobody does hand-drawn animation anymore. It's all digital, so just when you watch this and just realizing that it is all hand-drawn animation, it's still impressive to me, and I think it's a great entry. It's the first of the Batman animated movies that are set in that continuity.